The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it. Weekend edition is here. It's Hail Varsity at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate 9th and P. We are loaded up, man. It is Nebraska. It is Purdue. The theme, all kinds of weather as folks are trying to warm up. Our dear friend Vince Powers is trying to warm up just across the hallway. A lot of hardy Husker fans, some winter coats, some of those starter pullover winter coats, Cranack, that you and I might have rocked at one time during the decade of the 90s. Mark Cranack, Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt, Brad Fairbury, Bill Dolman, Connor Clark, and waiting in the wings, the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp. Fellas, big ball game today, and the road show today powered by your friends at Sauter Heyman. Big thanks to Sauter Heyman for that. More of your comments we'll get to in just a little bit on the stream. Can watch the show, the weekend edition. We always flex schedule. We don't need to be going at this 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. when there's a 2:30 kickoff, Cranack.
7:50.
Right. It fudges. And technically with the Open, you heard morning edition. Well, it's morning in the Pacific Coast, so we're all right.
Hey, Mountain Time too.
Yes, that's very fair. Maryland and Northwestern. How about Northwestern getting a stop thanks to some garbage play calling? The Cats on top of the Terps, 21-14. My Fighting Lance Leipold-led Kansas Jayhawks still up 14-6 on Boomer Sooner. It's the upset outright I called yesterday. I want to look smart occasionally, and Cranack has disappeared. Guys, how we feeling today? Big ball game, a chance to inch closer to 6 and beyond. Nebraska right now trying for that vaunted 3-game win streak. Yeah, I got you now. You disappeared on me, but now we got you. Cranack, pretty big ball game for Nebraska. You are, I don't know if the fire is going off to the right or the left of your screen right now, but you're going to be analyzing this thing from the friendly confines of Casa de Cranack.
Yeah, I kind of shared it on text earlier, but that whole we all stick together in all kinds of weather. Think about when that was actually written. That was written a long time ago. That was written before there was such a thing as the East Stadium expansion, which is where my seats are, way the hell up there. So whatever the weather is, like you're going to feel all of it times 2. And I would say I just think we should revise it to most kinds of weather. And there should be a little asterisk there for there's got to be some sort of record minimum. After today, though, my sense is today. Well, right. I mean, today is one of those. I think it's the wait and see day. I think right now Husker fans are like, okay, all right, you're gotten a few wins here. You're 4-3. Here comes Purdue. It's crappy weather. Let's see what happens. Right, let's see what happens. And if Nebraska beats them and all of a sudden you're a game away from bowl eligibility, even crappy weather is not going to keep folks away from Maryland, I don't think. But I think today is going to be a super sparse crowd. Listen to this. Put my tickets up on SeatGeek to sell them, right? Mm-hmm. The suggested price, powered by AI, presumably, $16. $16. I was like, I have pride. I put them up at 25. I'm like, that's fair. Husker game, Division I football, Big Ten, Nebraska sold out. Come on, $25. That's fair. No bites. Nobody's biting.
Well, Mark, as I look at SeatGeek now, the cheapest seats I can find are $2. So I think
at
that's
that point, why are you even selling them?
Competition. Oh wait, $1 here. Section 36A, row 73, $1 each, up to 4 tickets.
All right, so let's keep that in mind. By the way, as people talk about the stadium expansion and, oh my God, all these people are going to be so mad. I think it's fair to say demand has considerably gone down. It just has, obviously. You're selling tickets for $1.
Let's be clear. All the seats are sold, right?
Fair.
Okay. All the seats are sold. The sellout streak. There we go. All right. So
we do have that.
We do
have the sellout streak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't. It's not called an attendance streak. It's called a sellout streak. Right? But I think today is going to be sparse. I mean, are you sensing that too? I mean, if you look outside, yeah, right. They ain't going to do that when they could go watch John Cook and a number 1 team and do so in air conditioning and heat and all kinds of climate controlled situations. Yeah.
So it's about comfort. This is notes that Cranack, presumably Trev Alberts, is taking for 32-degree kickoff days.
It sounds like Cranack is very pro-dome right now.
I think he is.
Not?
Might move to North Dakota.
I mean, you're dropping $450 million, right? Like, at least you could just, what's another couple $100 million? You know, put in a dome. That would be amazing. It's not going to happen, though. We're not going to spend our time on that crap today, are we? On Nebraska getting a dome, that's not going to happen. We can't.
I don't think so today. But
retractable roof. Huh?
Now we're talking.
Better. Both of those are blasphemous, but.
Says the Northwestern fan where there's 8 people in the stands.
And I still don't want a dome.
I think it's the Georgia Dome, by the way. The Georgia Dome. They can't figure out how to open the thing. It's supposed to be retractable, and it just hasn't quite worked out. So it's just a dome. Like, for real, they can't figure it out. They
keep hearing the beep, and they don't know which battery it is that died. So they keep going around and testing, and they still can't figure out which one.
And that's one of those things you can't guess on, right? You can't be having like a 7-ton panel just dropping onto the field. Like, it's, yeah.
No, then you turn into the Metrodome. May it rest in peace.
Right.
Well, Rule of the Day chimes in, looking forward to a 3-game win streak. I don't feel good about today, just for whatever reason. It's not gone well against Purdue. Big recruiting day for Nebraska. So many 2024 and 2025 prospects on the field today, which is going to be great. But, guys, I want to focus in on things that Nebraska did a week ago that they'll need to bring back for this Saturday, specifically some of those swing plays. I want to get kicked off with that topic. And I think about how worst-case scenarios have gone and could go for Nebraska, not to be overly negative or make you spill your Bloody Mary this morning or this afternoon. But Nebraska did an excellent job of making some of those swing plays count last week against Northwestern. It was Gifford on that screen play where he was able to evade and avoid and beat 3 blocks and keep that screen to a minimum. It was 3 times Nebraska's defense having a gun to their head with just god-awful sudden change field position for the Northwestern offense, not late in the game, not in the middle of the game, to start the game. And Northwestern got 3 points out of it. And then you have your chance to put them to sleep the way your defense was playing. You get a special teams win, you pin them, they punt it to you. It's short field, and Harburg's able to connect with Malachi Coleman. Nebraska was pretty impressive on swing plays last Saturday. You're going to have a lot of swing plays, presumably against a better quarterback, a better offense, and a defense that is going up against 3 newer offensive linemen today with the kickoff at 2:30. So that's what I have circled. How does Nebraska do an encore with their performance swing play wise?
And it's funny, Schmidt, whenever you texted and we're like, yeah, I think this is going to be a good topic today, I thought you meant swing passes.
No.
I can't lie.
That's what I was thinking at first too. I was like, wait, what?
I was like, man, I'm not sure swing passes is going to be in the game plan today, Schmidt. That's not really Matt Rule's style. And after rereading the text and now hearing how you've laid it out, I do agree, yes. How does Nebraska respond to the swing plays? Because they're going to be there in the crappy weather today. There's going to be plays, as you talk about Northwestern last week. That's what Matt Rule's really happy about. The fact that you have guys like Malcolm Hartzog and Omar Brown not giving up on potential swing plays and keeping what could be a 7-point swing play and turning it almost in favor of your own defense, building some momentum. Hey, that could have been a touchdown, but now it's 1st and 10 inside the 20. We have a chance to bow up and hold Northwestern to a field goal. You saw Nebraska do really well there on the swing plays last week. How does the offense do on the swing plays, though, is the question to me, because I think they're going to get some opportunities. They're going to get some plays that are 10 to 15 yard runs against this Purdue team. Can you build on that? Can you turn it into a drive as opposed to, you know what, we picked up a first down and we're going to punt it deep and play the field position battle? I think that's going to have a place in the game today, but I need to see this offense be clinical. And you know what? Whenever the Purdue defense gives you a chance, you bust off a 10 to 15 yard run, turn it into a bit of a drive. Get yourself 3 points. Go get yourself a touchdown, because 10 points could be all you need in a game like today. What does Nebraska do whenever they get that chunk play offensively? Can they turn it into something? And then defensively, whenever you end up giving up a chunk play, can you turn it into a sack on the next play? Can you hold that Purdue offense, make it 3rd and 10?
You respond, right?
Yes. Do you respond? And Nebraska all year long, it feels like, under Matt Rule, especially since the Michigan game, has done really, really well in those swing play type moments. You know what? It's 1st and goal on the goal line for Illinois on their opening drive of the game. They have a chance to build momentum. What do? You bow up and you build momentum back for yourself in that moment. You saw it against Northwestern too with those defensive plays I already laid out. It started with the defense. Can the defense make some swing plays today, and then can the offense take advantage? That's kind of the question to me.
When hasn't the defense not made plays on the outside?
I go back to Boulder. It's 13-7, and it's 3rd and 12.
Okay.
Sorry.
When was that though? Late, mid-third, late third?
It was about 8 minutes, 6 minutes left in the third. But just that's what sticks out. But it's a far cry from being able to pick out several every game.
No, but I think we would look back and say, well, that's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Nebraska was searching for an identity at that time, and the offense had continued to put the defense in bad situations, and it was here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. And finally, after that Colorado game, for the most part, that defense said, all right, it's going to be up to us. No matter where they get the ball, no matter what we have to do, it's going to be on us. So whenever teams, and I would even include Michigan, where Michigan dominated with Nebraska was with that offensive line, getting the signs and going straight at Nebraska's defense. But when it comes to going sideline to sideline, for the most part, that Nebraska defense gets there. And it's not just Hartzog and Brown and Gifford. And I mean, you watch Hutmacher go left and right and pursue. Yep. I mean, that guy strikes terror in quarterbacks when they look around and they see this dude from the Arctic coming after them. I mean, that guy is incredibly athletic for the size that he is. But, okay, maybe Nebraska's defense gives up some plays on the outside every now and then, but it is not one of those things where it is completely vulnerable. So, and I'm not exactly sure that Purdue at 2-5, has been overly successful with it, and they've faced a defense like the one that they're going to face today. So I don't worry too much about Nebraska shutting down whatever it is that Purdue wants to do. Now, maybe Nebraska offensively has to go to the outside a little bit more and swing it, because they don't know what this makeshift backup offensive line is going to be do straight ahead. Are they going to be able to create holes that are going to get 5, 8, 18 yards up the middle? That's debatable. Are they going to be able to pass protect if Harburg wants to go deep to Coleman? That's also debatable. We're going to see, because they're going to have to try it. So maybe they loosen things up a little bit, get the backs out of the backfield, release a tight end, and go for those short passes to the outside. Let Harburg feel comfortable, let the line feel comfortable, and go to the guys who are reliable. But I don't worry about that as being some vulnerable point for Nebraska, especially defensively.
Yeah, look, Nebraska offensively, Harburg is going to face most likely pressure up the middle, right? Because you're replacing your 2 guards. So it'll be – that's where they're going to send guys, right? They're going to test those guards. They're going to test Evans Jenkins. They're going to test Lutovsky. One reason why Lutovsky hasn't played as much, it's not because of his run blocking. He's graded out really well there. He's fine. Pass blocking, all right. And this is already a team that doesn't protect very well. That's not been his strength. Maybe it's all changed. People can change. Maybe he's better now. I don't know. But between
self-help guide.
Right. So between Scott, I'm telling you. And then Evans Jenkins, he's only played what? 1/2 of meaningful snaps so far in his entire career. So it's I would imagine the pressure's coming up the middle. Now I think you're upgrading at left tackle. Maybe not in the run game, but you're definitely upgrading in pass protection, right? Look, Zadiska, not Zadiska. Why did I say Prohaska? They're all bohunks, right? Prohaska over on the left tackle. What? It's true. As a fellow one, I can say that. It's okay. So, yeah, right? I'm just saying. So you got
We went from self-help to needing help.
Yeah, that's kind of both. But you got Prohaska at left tackle. So the blind side is going to be a little bit better today. But I would imagine the pressure is going to come up the middle. And I think that actually bodes well for Nebraska because I think it's going to force Satterfield to get Harburg out on the edges, which is where he's the best.
And Mark, in theory, I think Prohaska is a better option at left tackle than Corcoran. But as I watch Prohaska step into the football games, he hasn't lived up to the expectations that have been built onto him. And he's got the frame for it. He's got the size for it.
It's just win. Hold on, back up. Yeah, that's a big statement you just made right there. He hasn't lived up to the expectations. In which games are we talking about here?
I think just being available.
Fair.
He's come in and played well as a swing tight end, but you look in Michigan's a tough test for anybody. But in the snaps we saw him against Michigan, he didn't quite live up to it. I didn't think he was great last week, especially in pass protection. He's been letting people get into his chest a little bit in pass protection. I think Corcoran and him have been about a wash as run blockers. Like, I'm not saying Prohaska can't step up and be better because it's been in limited snaps and it's tough to get that rhythm going when you're in limited snaps. But
I don't think third year, right?
I've seen from Prohaska year 3, but 2 years have been kind of derailed due to injury. So what I've seen from him so far this year has not lived up to what I saw from him in the previous years. And maybe it just takes a little bit of rhythm and working a week as being the starter and building up the rhythm with the guy next to you. But I don't think he's quite lived up to the expectations that I placed on him preseason. There's been a reason that he hasn't seen the field and Corcoran's still been the starting guy. And it's been in limited snaps for Prohaska, but he hasn't stepped in and been this rock solid left tackle that I think a lot of Husker fans were expecting. He hasn't been, I guess the best way to put it is leaps and bounds better than Turner Corcoran. He has not been that so far this season, and maybe today is the day that changes because he gets to build some rhythm. But whenever you actually lock in and look at him, he hasn't been an upgrade on what Corcoran has been at that left tackle spot, and I hope today he's able to build some momentum there. But it just, especially in pass protection, hasn't been as good as I'd expect. He's been letting the bull rush get to him. He's been letting guys get into his chest, and you've seen pressure coming off that left side from when Heiner Carber's been dropping back, Prohaska protecting his blind side.
But he's the guy now.
In here.
He is. I just think it'll change his mentality a bit. The ability's there. The ability he is.
Yes, I agree with that. The ability is there, but he hasn't quite put it all together so far this season.
Physically, I'm not worried. Mentally, it's a trust thing coming off injury, and there's a concern there. Connor, jump in real quick, partner, on just the running game here. I want to get your take on if today's an Anthony Grant game for you.
I mean, I would like it to be, but I don't know how realistic that can be, especially with how cold it's going to be, because everybody knows when you get a cold football, I mean, security of the ball is even harder than it is on a normal day, right? And Anthony Grant has had a lot of struggles with that. So I don't know how much you really want to trust just him. Not saying that he can't get you some good plays on the ground, but I think it's going to be more so by committee, which I really don't have a problem with. I thought Emmett Johnson showed some good things in the past couple of weeks as well. So I think you're going to have a pretty solid group run game-wise today. It just depends on who puts the ball on the ground less, I think, between these two teams. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, the amount of fumbles that both of these teams have. Purdue's 13, Nebraska's 18. Now, Nebraska struggled a little bit more in that category, but that doesn't mean that Purdue hasn't struggled in that area. So I think whatever team puts the ball on the ground less is going to have a much better chance to win. Now, obviously, that makes sense just overall turnover-wise, but that's been an Achilles heel for both of these offenses. And then another thing I want to see out of this team today is I kind of want to see them play a little bit ticked off, because you go into this week, and we've heard the speeches from Matt Rule about, especially last week, he was not happy with 86 rushing yards for Northwestern at halftime, right? And he was, drawing the line in the sand right there to his team and challenging them to go into the second half. Then you go this week with Coach Walters and what he wanted to say during the press conference. I want to see Matt Rule use that with his team. I mean, he's talked about how he's tired of the narrative of Nebraska being bad down the stretch in the past handful of years, right? Well, this is your time to say, hey, we've got some bulletin board material. Embrace the disrespect and go get it done in your house. I think I really want Matt Rule to emphasize that to his team, and that's something we didn't really get from Frost, or at least we didn't see that from the outside looking in. I really want to see Matt Rule embrace that today and see what his team can respond with.
I want to see Connor become
like this.
Matt Rule's speechwriter. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
'Cause Matt, I think
I don't
you're on
know
something.
that Matt needs, no disrespect to Connor, but I don't need to know that Coach Rule needs a speechwriter.
No, he does not. And I could
He's
not write a
pretty
speech
good.
half as good as what he said so far. So
I'm
I
not
think
saying
if you guys collaborate, it could
Well,
be
here's
good.
the thing,
Well,
it's-
you have better pipes
Like,
than
you
him,
think, you
though.
think back. You
Maybe
think
you
back
can
to Nebraska,
deliver.
Minnesota, though, a couple years ago, Mark, with the no sleeves game, the sleeves gate, if you will. Now,
Oh,
it's,
God.
if we freeze, we freeze. That's going to be the speech today.
We freeze. I know. Look, points are going to be hard. The margin of error today is just going to be this. This is going to be a fast game too. I don't know if it was the Illinois game or last week, where the total game time was something like 2 hours and 56 minutes. This is a televised game, like that, less than 3 hours, right? Just because there's so few possessions, clock's running all the time. I think you're going to see that times 2 today. Purdue will probably try to put it in the air because I don't think they're going to be able to get a lot done on the ground. So that could slow it down a little, but can we even judge Satterfield, this offense, this program, when you have, I mean, literally just 3 of your top 11 playing on offense? I mean, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of a team that's lost that many folks.
I hear you on, is it personnel or is it play calling? But you had some question marks before the injuries. What's the reason?
You totally did.
And I didn't hate, going back to Minnesota, some of the deep shots early in the fourth quarter. What I hated is the turnovers. So I'm not a defender of Satterfield, but he's making the decision on who's starting on offense. Okay, now he's kind of got his hand forced with who's starting. There's got to be better execution. So the 2 out of 3 picks to start a possession, play was open. Okay, play was open to be made, and it was airmailed. So okay, have you seen the kid make the play in practice or not? And if you have, go ahead and call it. But if you haven't, don't break it out for me on Saturday against a team that's looking to crawl away. So I've got a little bit of hesitation with, all right, what does Nebraska have as their OC? What do they have in their offense? I do feel good, though, that Matt Rule's got a leash on him. Matt Rule will step in and say, what the hell are you doing? Run the ball. I mean, Rule's going to be hands-on with it.
But I want to get back to the original question here from Mark, because he asked, in a season like this, with all the injuries, with all the problems with the offense, can we judge Satterfield? I mean, this is Nebraska. Like, yeah,
he's going to be.
I know we will.
I
know we will. I'm just saying, is it right?
Should we judge Marcus Satterfield? Yes, with an asterisk. Can we? You're damn right we can, and we're going to.
Well, look at South Carolina. I mean, since he's gone, it's not exactly as though they, found some gem to replace him. Maybe he did okay last year. They've got a returning quarterback that Nebraska probably would love to have, and they're terrible offensively. They've got 7 points at Texas A&M, and they're going to get beat again, and they're going to fall to 2-6 on the season. So last year offensively, people were kind of enamored with what South Carolina was doing offensively, and they thought, well, they're going to be good this year. Well, Satterfield's gone, so maybe there's a correlation there. One thing that we keep talking about is the weather. It's just cold. It's not. We're not getting these freezing rains weather and drizzles and all that stuff. It's not.
It was 13, supposed to
30, right? So it's 33 degrees when I walked over. I didn't drop anything, so I'm thinking weather may not be as big of a factor in this game as we were led to believe that it. The last couple of days that it was 30 to 40% chance of precipitation and possibility for snow. Now, we might get that tomorrow for the soccer game when Nebraska takes on Ohio State.
Who's calling that
on television? Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So, but it's just a cold day today. It's still, ideal for the defense. Going back to the flanks and the offense, if Nebraska's going to run to the outside and they're going to run some option, for the love of God and all that is holy in the option game, pitch the ball, Heinrich Haarberg. because
it's open.
Because right now, anybody
I think he's done that twice this year.
The quarterback's going to keep the ball. Just go to the quarterback because he's not going to pitch it. And if he does, it may not be all that accurate.
Well, Bill, I tell you what we should do here. As we're probably going to take a break
We
here
are.
and welcome in Gary Sharp. But what we should do is we'll go find ourselves a football. We'll go step outside, and we'll go make the weather report. How catchable is a football today from Bill Dolman and Elijah Herbal?
I'm sure there's
Purdue's
Purdue
going to have
laying around there. I mean,
well,
they're in the team hotel.
We need to just order 1, 2, 3, 4. Carry the one. We need to order 4
Guinness
Boilermakers.
Oh, okay.
There was no carry the one there, just for the record.
No, I know. Just
There was
working
no
out.
carry. By the way, did you notice the humble brag from Bill, where he was, he's just like, on the way in, I didn't drop anything. That's alluding to his gargantuan man hands that Bill has, these giant mitts, and you know what they say. I'm just kidding. Talking about gloves.
Big feet,
Gloves.
huh? Big feet. That's what they say.
Big feet.
Right on.
Big feet.
It is break time here on the weekend edition. So Varsity is here at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate. Home football Saturdays. We invite you down. We're here noon to 2. We're powered by your friends at Cornhead Lager, the perfect beer to enjoy while watching your favorite game. Purchases help support NIL through the 1890 initiative. A roadshow also powered by your great friends at Sauter Heyman Jewelers. Rick and the gang, incredible. The Iron Horse in the on-deck circle. Gary Sharp's on the way. Hail Varsity here at the Single Barrel, 9th and P.
KFOR is Lincoln's high school sports station. Count on Jeff, Schmitty, Elijah, Connor, and Will to bring you all the action all season long. The big games, the breathtaking wins, and those heartbreaking misses. Hear the excitement of prep games here on Lincoln Station for local news, talk, weather, and sports. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
The 6-1 Chiefs travel to Mile High to take on the 2-5 Broncos for the second time in 3 weeks. Pregame starts at 2 on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
While there are many unexpected factors that can affect the next growing season, farmers have grown to expect the expected with Rank Seed. Our consistent top-end yields come from strict quality control, trusted technology, and local dealers invested in your success. Rank Seed has been a family-owned and operated business since 1846. More than 175 years later, we still have the highest performing genetics on the market in all environments. Expect the expected with Rank Seed.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-970-3199. That's 800-970-3199. 800-970-3199.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For America's wounded warriors, sometimes coming home can be a battle in itself. Every one of them needs our support to meet the challenges they face every day. The USO provides Americans a way to offer that support to our wounded warriors and their families. Join us. Visit USO.org to learn how you can make a difference in their lives. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Back Monday on KFOR, Schmidt and Carroll.
We continue to follow the developments in Gaza. An update on the manhunt in
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Connor,
got no Chris.
He is
There we go.
the Adobe window, just to let you know, Connor.
Oh,
we
we
made
go.
a change over here during the commercial break.
That makes a lot more sense.
Can we start this segment real quick with a comment as we get Chris's audio fixed up? Is anybody able to bring in Budnick's comment that he just left in the StreamYard? Are we able to pull that
The one
up?
about Mockabee?
Huh? No.
The one about Mockabee, the one about what? Strain y'all blazing? Or there's a lot of options.
Yeah, I just think it's an important question. That one. Yep. The what's okay. Well, Moonbot is going super low.
No, Schmitty, it is not fixed.
It is not.
Yeah, we can't hear Chris.
I can hear you, but Bill
we
or
can hear
Elijah
Gary.
or everybody else cannot hear you.
This is interesting.
You just tell me what you want to say, and then I'll relay it to the rest of the fellas.
I think this is
I'll
mutiny.
steal your sign.
This could be. Maybe it's mutiny. I mean, if you think about it, Chris has, he gets a lot of airtime, and the rest of us don't. And
That's why Elijah knows how to fix everything.
Yeah,
So they need to go to
Elijah's
the
over there.
tanning
Glad we have an
fixing that.
on-site engineer. But
So if you're listening on the radio, this is what's happening. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 people on site. We got Connor in the studio. You got me at the satellite west, satellite east wing of the Hale Varsity complex, and Chris is the lone guy. That's right, the Nebraska Broadcaster of the Year, circa 2021. I believe. Nope, still can't hear him. He does not have audio, which probably ruins his chances for getting Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year this year.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Gary and Bill, have you both also won that award?
I think they
The
have.
Sportscaster of the Year award?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gary's won the award. Bill, have you won that award?
Yeah. In another century.
And so we are sitting here. Half of us are Nebraska Sportscasters of the Year. What would we call the other half? What would we call the other half here?
Soon to be.
Where you going to answer
Soon
that?
to be.
Soon to be.
Sportscasters of the Year. You can
Yeah,
hear me
it's
now.
still a little
See it
quiet,
on
Chris. Yeah, but bring the mic closer to your mouth.
it sounds like you're talking from 10 feet away, Schmitty. That's what sounds like.
Is this better? Harbaugh?
No, it's not.
Okay,
No,
I'm taking
it's
over
not.
for the team.
You are taking
This is
over
a
the team.
dadgum
Okay.
tragedy. All right, so now,
I'll just be
now if you're
eye
listening
candy.
on the radio,
Wow.
play-by-play here.
This show
This
is
show
already
is
like
pretty
Nebraska
Bill has selflessly.
We're better now.
Yes.
No, you still sound the same. That's so weird.
Now I'm okay.
Yeah, he sounds fine now.
Now we're okay.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Bill Dolman,
you,
you
Bill.
be eye candy,
Jesus.
so shake hands, kiss babies, and be Eric Stratton. Dan, glad to meet you on homecoming.
Yeah.
Sharpie,
So-
into football we go.
Yeah, well, Sharpie, welcome into Hale Varsity Radio's technical
Sure.
difficulties.
Good to see you
segment.
guys.
I tried to make it work. Forgive me. It's a tire fire. Okay.
There's a lot of
Football.
dudes here. Usually that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm just
There
glad I
are.
didn't show up with a Santa hat and say, come on, get on the knee. So
Gary, we have a question on the StreamYard here from Matt. He asked if your spy is in place for the day.
Okay,
lay
so
this out.
so I
Who are you
came up with
spying
this idea
for?
yesterday. I said if somebody would be willing, they have to provide a cell phone and a Michigan jersey. I will buy you a ticket. You guys were just talking about how inexpensive tickets are. So I found one 14 rows up on the 40-yard line facing the Nebraska sideline. But I was advised by somebody in my DMs yesterday that we probably should not attempt that.
Why?
That would be hilarious.
The person that told me I trust, so I was like, okay, but we're gonna still try it. I mean, it's a great Halloween costume.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic Halloween costume. But if somebody shows up, sits down in that getup, Husker Nation may revolt.
Hey, but with this whole thing, as crazy as it sounds, like wouldn't your arm hurt holding your cell phone for that long?
Possibly.
Or wouldn't somebody at least be like, what are you doing?
Maybe they had those.
I hope the people at Michigan would be smart enough to come up with some sort of apparatus where they didn't have to hold
Well,
the camera for the entire game.
Connor,
Yeah, those Ray-Ban smart glasses. You could wear those.
These are bonkers, dumb criminals that we have working here. But here's what would happen if you tried this in Lincoln. They'd be like, sit down, you can't stand up, sit down. But it's 32-29.
It's 3rd and 8.
There's a lot of talk, by the way, in the stream. This is it's just a first. I just want to acknowledge it. Don't want to encourage it. But but a lot of cannabis strain discussions happening right now on who is on
named ones.
which
We have
strain.
Super Lemon Haze.
Yep, we
Gorilla
got
Mist.
Gorilla Mist.
Isn't
Kate
Purdue
Kush?
game day fabulous?
Moonbot's
Gorilla
hat
Glue.
Apparently it's a good strain.
Yeah.
Not legal here. Yeah.
No. So that's we're not. And by the way, that's probably CBD, which is. I'm sure that's what they're talking about. Okay, Moonbot lives 1,200 feet. I love the fact that he has it that dialed in to that many feet, right? Like Moonbot, like how do you determine? For instance, is there any place that you all know? Would you know if you're within 1,200 feet of something? Like that's not an increment of distance that you would even consider, right? But Moonbot is like
fireworks stands. I'd know if I'm within 1,200 feet of a fireworks stand. I know because that means I can't let off fireworks, even though I still do. But 1,200 feet's also it is weirdly specific.
Yeah, that's what I'm
there
saying.
are signs around town that prevent certain people from being near.
And it's 4 football fields. That's pretty close. 4 football fields. That's like what 4 city blocks probably.
That's what Andy Dufresne.
That's like my 9.
Had to.
That and a Chuck E. Cheese, man.
Yeah.
An elementary school and a Chuck E. Cheese. Other than that, you're good.
Yeah, with my mustache, I have to keep that in mind. Someone's gonna get angry.
Sharpie, let's talk football for a minute.
Dear God, please, let's talk football.
Might as well. Might as well on the pregame show.
Let's talk about Rink Mass getting assaulted.
That was messed up.
That is so Nebraska ball.
I missed it. What
all
happened?
The stories about Nebraska ball.
I missed.
Well, Rink Mass was on one of the scooters, and so he was accosted by somebody who had a pretty stellar high school and FCS college football career named Nick DeLuca. Remember that name?
Okay.
From North and North Dakota State.
Yes. So Rink Mass, 6'10" right?
250.
Yeah.
Big kind of like Drago type build, like big dude, right?
Big dude.
Yeah.
Got a Dutch name. So he's on a scooter, and then Nick DeLuca from Miller North, and then North Dakota State, I believe.
Allegedly rolled up on him and threw him off.
Threw Rink Mass off of a scooter?
Yep. That's what happens in Lincoln when you're 4-3.
We got to hear more about
We
this.
haven't
Can we
been
get
for the last
Nick
3
on?
years, so what's that been like?
Hey, can I just point something out? Because I'll just bring it back to football. Do you guys realize how significant today is for Nebraska? You guys have been talking about it all week. We all have.
Yes.
So the previous 17 Big Ten games, Nebraska was 3-14. If they win today, they've won 3 in a row. And for the first time since the Cubs won the World Series, they have a winning streak, like a legit winning streak, and they will have swept October. That's like, I think that's rather significant.
That's what you circle in October, in August, saying this should happen, but it's never happened since the 2016 season where Nebraska finished 9-4. The last season they went to a bowl game. Great act, Sharpie, Connor, Elijah, Billy D. You can signal to us. Octobers have been vitally important, and it's been nothing but heartache. I mean, you maybe have sneaked out a win or two, but you haven't swept.
And look at what's happening today in college football. Northwestern is beating Maryland. Look what Indiana's doing against Penn State. I mean, you have these quirky week-to-week things that are going on in the Big Ten, and then you have Minnesota beat Iowa last week. I mean, I think there is something to be said if they can get through the month unscathed. And I'm telling you, I've said this on my show, and you guys can respond to this, and I may be completely off, but I'm trying to read into Rule what he said on Monday and what he said on Thursday. I think he's looking at what's ahead of them and what he has, and I think he truly believes they can win the West. It might sound crazy to all of us. I think Matt Rule believes that he can win the West. Thank you. Bill and I are together on this.
In this league, he sure can, Connor, but you still see you'll believe it when you see it with this football team because of the injuries.
Right. Well, and as a fan too, I mean, fan, media member, whatever, you talk about winning the West as Nebraska and you still kind of brush that narrative off. But if you're the head coach of the program, I mean, why shouldn't you believe that you can win the West? I mean, that's what you're set out to do. Now, obviously, if the casual football fan's probably going to say, well, whoever comes in second in the West is probably the real winner because you don't have to play Michigan again. But, I mean, the fact that you have a head coach that is put you in this position, I mean, the fact that, and you just said it, Gary, Nebraska's got a chance to sweep October, and they control their destiny on October 28th of 2023 to get to Indianapolis. Who saw that coming in the preseason? I know it hasn't looked pretty. I know they haven't been super dominant, but they control their own destiny to get to that Big Ten championship game. I still think that is completely wild. And the fact that they have a chance to sweep a month such as October and have a pretty good chance of continuing that against the Michigan State program, not to look ahead, but that's struggled and has been in disarray this year as well. I mean, the points that you just brought up, plus a coach believing that you can get to that point in just his first season, is just absolutely bonkers. I still am kind of skeptic on if they can actually get there, but the fact that the path is there is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think there is some skepticism. I will tell you this, Elijah, they have coached them harder this week in practice than they have in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're looking at, do not overlook Purdue and do not get all of a sudden comfortable. And so it's been a hard week of practice. They've cranked up the intensity. Like Matt Rule has been, as one person told me yesterday, he's kind of been an a-hole this week.
Good.
Which I mean, that's good. That's good. There's some guys on this roster, they have to coach a little bit differently. Like they have to coach harder. And they are realizing that. And that's a great sign. So I'm curious to see what the result is early on today's game. Not late, but early.
Well, that's the thing.
Continue, Mark, please.
I was sorry. I got a little delay here.
Over to
I'm
you,
sorry.
please.
Thank you. I'm sorry. The delay. It's been interesting. He's been pretty consistent too about that theme. It's not necessarily unique, but I think the way he presents it and how he goes about it is a little different, where he talks about week to week. Like, I think the problem with this is paraphrasing. He thinks the problem with Nebraska football is that they kind of worry about everything too much. They realize the magnitude of each game. They therefore play a little more tentative and tight because they're, oh my God, if you lose this game, then this happens and this happens. And he's just like, stop all that. Worry about like what's right in front of your face right now. Him saying that out loud, right? Him saying that out loud, that he thinks that's the problem, and getting him to dial in. So far, it's been pretty damn effective, I think, because it does appear
this is the problem.
Right. It appears that the team, look, they gave, Northwestern had a couple leak outs. They had, they found something late in the first half where they were starting to pull a tackle and pull a guard across the formation. And, they were gashing Nebraska for a little bit, but man, it was short lived, right? Like people have to strain to beat this defense, or they have to execute at a Michigan level, right? In Michigan, since they know everybody's effing plays, like they're able to execute a little bit better, right? And they're already good. So now you got a Purdue team coming in. Look, wouldn't you say you agree with Matt Rule that when you look at the remainder of the schedule, is there anybody on that schedule where you're like, oh, no, that's an L? I don't see that. Whereas when you look at like Minnesota, they have to go to Ohio State. That's a loss, right? And so you can look at who Nebraska's in competition with in the West, and that's Iowa, that's Minnesota, and it's Wisconsin, and it's Nebraska. It's 4-way race right there.
And I think Nebraska's been pretty fortunate too, Mark, with injuries of other teams. Now I know that they've dealt with plenty of injuries on their side as well, but you look at it down the stretch too, you're probably going to get Wisconsin without Tanner Mordecai as their starting quarterback. You're going to get Iowa without Cade McNamara as their quarterback. You see how different they look, right? You get a Michigan State team that has had turmoil with their head coach next week, and you get a Purdue team in T-minus 2 hours that has a brand new regime and has struggled here in the past couple of weeks. So it's kind of lining up pretty nicely for Matt Rule here in year one. I'm not trying to invalidate what he's doing, obviously. I mean, he's winning ball games that he should be winning, but it's kind of lining up pretty nicely, right? And in a way that I don't think many people expected. I don't think anybody really thought the West was going to be that great to begin with, but I don't really think anybody thought it was going to be this bad.
Well,
in reality.
And the thing is we're definitely looking way too far ahead. We're getting ahead of ourselves here because there's been a lot of times in recent years where you've said, well, Nebraska controls their own destiny. All they have to do is win out. And, on the schedule, there's Ohio State. There's a top 25 Iowa team. There's a top 25 Wisconsin team. It feels different this year because legitimately every game remaining feels like it can and should be winnable. The Iowa game at the end of the year is going to be tough with their defense, but every game does feel like it should be winnable for what we've seen from this Husker football team. It's not great opponents that you have ahead of you. Now, we're looking way ahead of ourselves because as Z Paulson chimes in on the chat, he's worried about today. This feels like a classic Husker loss that we've become so accustomed to. That's very true, but if there's anything that's different about this team, it really does feel like Matt Rule has this Husker team focused on the week by week, and he lets the fans and the media look way too far ahead. This team does not feel like a team that is looking too far ahead and looking and saying, you know what, 9-3 could be in the cards. We can do it. There is an element to going 1-0 every single week, and Matt Rule has his team focused on going 1-0 every single week as he talked about how intense he was at practice this week.
Guys, I think I'm going to take a little bit from the GB rewind where he's talking at different points. He's kicking him in the backside at halftime against Northwestern. Then he's talking to him again in the episode after practice where he wants him in the moment, but he's like, you keep doing that, you're going to take off. You're going to ascend. And today's a big part of that. They've got buy-in. They've got some belief. They have been able to roll with the punches, good, bad, ugly, injury-wise or turnovers. Defense has been pretty much bulletproof. Now it's the offense's turn when they are decimated to make some strides despite what they have. And to me, that is going to be key here is I don't think they're going to jump ship on him if they don't win today, but I'm really curious to see how they find a way to win. And special teams, yes, defense, yes, but today's, to me, is going to be a day where the offense has got to take a monster step forward, not put up 40, not put up 30, but just take care of the ball and not be sloppy or unable to execute. They've got to, it sounds so simplistic, but they've got to be able to do what's called and do it well against a defense in Purdue, Krenak, that's vulnerable.
And it's about being clean. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. So if you are going to run a conservative offense that's ground-based, at bare minimum, you better get the damn snap. You better be able to hand it off, right? You cannot have those drive killers. Like that. That's just, that's core fundamentals. And that's been a struggle. Right? Like those things, handing the damn ball off, fielding a snap has been a problem. But if you look at the offense, I'm not sure that we've really given enough credit to how devastating the injuries at receiver have been. When you look at the combined experience that you lost there between Kemp, Washington, and Isaiah Garcia Castanet, that's like 15 years combined of college football playing experience that are just gone, right? And so now you got a walk-on in Bullock that never even got a sniff last year. You got Coleman, who's right out of high school. You got Lloyd and a host of others. These guys have literally never played. I think because of that, and because of how last week went with Harburg, I think his leash is really short today. Really short.
Ooh.
I think if
I disagree. I disagree.
No.
They're going to keep
if he struggles
through it.
Look, Sims is presumably, from all reports, healthy and ready to rock. I just have a hard time. I have a hard time seeing them sticking with knowing the margin for error, knowing that you only have 9 series in the damn game. If Harburg's blowing it on like 2 straight of those, I don't know. I could see Sims coming back in.
Roundtable here quickly. We all disagree with that take.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. I don't think Alicia. I think in the Rule house, not very far from this establishment, that leash is in the closet.
Yeah. And I don't.
You think they're sticking with him thick and thin? If he turns it over, okay, he fumbles a snap, he throws a pick,
and they have to address it.
Yeah.
Until they lose a game, Mark. Not during a game, until they lose a game, and then if it's because of something that happened, then they seriously consider a change. But I don't think this is a fan thing and a media thing. This isn't the interior walls of Memorial Stadium. I don't think they're thinking about this all because they've started to design the offense around him with the parts that they have. Because he throws a really odd ball because you see that rises a little bit. And so they've done more work with him, working with the number 1 wide receivers more than anything. So I just don't think they're going to, unless they lose a football game. The biggest stat going for Heinrich Harburg is he's 4-1.
Right,
for sure.
Before we get you out, recruiting. 2 seconds, recruiting. Big recruiting weekend.
Grant Brooks being here is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing.
Is that a coup by this staff at this point of the year?
I don't know. He's a weird read. It's a good sign that he's here. It'd be an even better sign if he says yes to Nebraska.
Sure.
But I will tell you what, they do prioritize you. If you get a visit from the equipment truck, that means they like you.
I would like to say,
how long of a drive is that? What was that, 2 hours? How
It's like
far of a
2.5.
drive is that?
What's
Diesel cost?
2.5. But I'd like to say here before we get out, and I know Connor's looking at me with angry eyes.
Yes.
We have missed our break by minutes now. Gary said it.
Minutes?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
no.
We're 3 minutes over.
I'm working my magic. It's okay.
Hail Varsity Radio out of context. Gary said it. Matt Rule keeps the leash in the closet today.
Yes.
Out of context, of course. Yes.
Bill Bowman has gargantuan hands.
Yes, hour two.
Somewhat related.
Hour two
Are they
away.
connected?
We're here at the Single Barrel.
Gotta be able to walk that dog.
Inside the Graduate. We're powered by your friends at Sauter. Heyman, Sharpie, thank you for coming by. Bill Dolman, thanks
Gary.
for costing me option style. That headset, I did not fumble. Kranak, you stay put. Connor, don't run. Elijah, get a cocktail. Hour two on the way here with Hail Varsity Weekend.
I'm going to spike the football on the text string when Sims takes over.
Choosing flooring doesn't have to be hard. Enjoy the process with Carpets Direct.
With endless possibilities, you can imagine your home in a new way you've always dreamed of it. At Carpets Direct, your dream floor is our job.
With so much to consider and so many ways to accent your home, the Carpets Direct team is here to lead the way with carpets so tempting you won't be able to resist.
Feel free to dream big at Carpets Direct, 48th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, and online at carpetsdirectne.com.
Join us November 12th, 2023 at 2 p.m. for the Lincoln Veterans Parade. The parade route starts near Lincoln High School and follows K Street to the state capitol. If you're unable to attend, watch it on LNK TV. The parade features marching bands from local area high schools, floats, and units from military organizations. A special thanks to our sponsors, Sandhills Global and Smithfield Foods. Visit Lincoln, One Source Marketing, and Berry Law.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. If you're a dad who is facing divorce, there are extra layers of stress that may include stereotypes and assumptions. No two situations are the same. Our legal experience and dedication prepare us for whatever legal challenges we face together. You need a partner you can count on. For more than 30 years, Cordell & Cordell has represented men in divorce.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Lincoln area attorneys. 1221 N Street, Suite 801, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Watching your hard-earned dollars fly out the window on healthcare costs is so frustrating. But here's something that could really help, and it's worth taking a minute to look into. MediShare 65 Plus. MediShare is a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it really is a community too. People encourage and pray for each other. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for people with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. It's a great way to fight inflation too. You can lock in one low monthly price for up to 10 years. Plus, it's easy. You can use any Medicare-approved doctor and get 24/7 telehealth from the comfort of your home. And here's the thing. If you join before October 30th, you'll get your second month free and save even more. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just tell them the promo code SHARE to get your additional savings.
This is your station for local news, talk, sports, and weather. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Israeli Defense Forces remain in Gaza following their expanded ground operation launched Friday evening. ABC's Ines de la Catera has more from Jerusalem.
The IDF continuing over the day on Saturday to expand its ground activities in the Gaza Strip, saying since early Friday evening, combined combat forces of armor, combat engineers, and infantry have been operating on the ground in northern Gaza Strip. As part of the operation, IDF soldiers identified terrorist cells attempting to launch anti-tank missiles and mortar shells and struck them. IDF soldiers also identified and destroyed a booby-trapped structure. Ines de la Catera, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Doctors Without Borders has called for a ceasefire in the Middle East as they try to treat the injured Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Executive Director Avril Benoit.
Today, it's impossible for our colleagues to work safely because of widespread attacks on healthcare, which have impacted hospitals, ambulances, medical personnel, and patients.
Last night in New York, a demonstration demanding a ceasefire clogged Grand Central Terminal, temporarily halting train and subway service. Police arrested more than 200 demonstrators. We're learning more about Robert Card, the mass shooting suspect found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in Maine.
His body found Friday night in a trailer at a business where he worked in Lisbon, Maine, the next town over from Lewiston, where he killed 18 people and wounded more than a dozen others in 2 locations. State Public Safety Commissioner Mike Sawchuk says investigators searched several trailers looking for Card, but initially missed the one he was finally found in.
So the Maine State Police tactical team ultimately were the ones that located the body within one of those trailers.
Still unanswered the motive for Card's rampage. Derek Dennis, ABC News, Lewiston, Maine.
Jeep maker Stellantis is said to have reached a tentative contract agreement with the United Auto Workers Union, similar to a deal struck by Ford. The deal, which still has to be ratified by members, leaves only General Motors without a contract with the union. You're listening to ABC News.
I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer Sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair's gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
You're all set with your Medicare prescriptions, Mrs. Brown.
This is not just low-cost copays at Walgreens.
I can actually help you set up 90-day refills if you want.
This is having a partner you can trust. Get low-cost copays, 90-day refills, and delivery from your neighborhood Walgreens. This is being independent. Together. Walgreens.
Restrictions apply. For details, see walgreens.com/pharmacy.
I'm Jeff Bryden. At her request, the Lancaster County Court District Judge dismissed a Lincoln woman's petition for a protection order against Lancaster County Chief Deputy Ben Houchin. Our media partner 1011 News reports Tierra Maton filed the request for dismissal Wednesday, a day before the two were set to go to court to show cause for the protection order she had sought. Judge Ryan Post dismissed the petition without prejudice, meaning Maton could refile if she wished. An update to the Tuesday night hit and run at Southwest 27th and West O Street, where a 43-year-old woman in a wheelchair was hit by a vehicle. Security video shows a semi-truck with a trailer that was labeled Metro Trailer appeared to have hit the woman and continued eastbound. A large piece of the plastic bumper on the passenger side is missing. The woman suffered critical injuries, but is expected to survive. And in the Class A high school football playoffs, Lincoln East led from the start and held on for a 24-17 victory over rival Lincoln Southeast Friday night in a game heard on KFOR. I'm Jeff Bryden.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Billy, your gas light's on. We need to stop and fill up.
No way, Jen. Gas around here is too expensive. We can make it a little further.
Billy, listen to your big sister. You don't need to drive all over searching for the lowest gas prices. Do what I do and use Upside.
Upside?
Do you live under a rock, Billy? Upside is the hottest cashback app out there. It's free to download, and you get real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200.
You can make that kind of cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway?
Yes, I'm looking at the Upside app now, and there's a gas station at the next exit offering 25 cents per gallon cash back.
Okay, I'm stopping to download Upside and fill up my tank. Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code FRIEND to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code FRIEND for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code FRIEND for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
15 years ago, we were adding on to our home. And so I convinced Sean we should update the kitchen.
We did some research and we decided to go with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Their reputation was phenomenal. To design, do the construction and the finish work, what we wanted was what we got from start to finish. So fast forward 15 years, our family's changed. We've gotten bigger.
There just wasn't the space in the kitchen anymore. People were banging into each other.
We decided 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Here's the problem. What are our solutions? Comparing working with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath 15 years ago, today, their ability to design what you want was the same.
Everything has been what I want.
The quality of 3-Day Kitchen and Bath, I think, is phenomenal. The countertops and the cabinets that they use are great. They were just good guys doing good work.
For more about your new kitchen or bath, visit 3daykitchen.com.
3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Fall and football.
I love the fall.
Lincoln, Nebraska is the best city in America to get the full experience.
The color of the leaves, apple orchard, campfires.
Stay connected mornings with Schmidt, Carol, and Jeff with the latest news, changing weather, school issues, along with a touch of Husker football, the Chiefs, and your local high school sports. Lincoln's Morning News, and so much more. Weekdays from 6 until 9 on FM 101.5, 1240 AM, and at KFORnow.com.
Most parents have a homework schedule for the weekdays, but don't forget to cover the weekends. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. A good way to avoid a problem is to set a homework schedule for the weekend. Set aside a couple hours of homework time on Saturday and help your student avoid staying up late Sunday night to finish a project.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Back with you, it's hour two. It's the weekend edition, Hail Varsity, here at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate, 9th and P. Chris Schmidt, Mark Cranack, Elijah Herbal, Connor Clark, Friday Fairbury, Bill Dolman, and we welcome in his football office. Hunker down. I suspect some chili is on. Brandon Vogel from Counter Read with this. Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Our friends at Sauter Heyman help power the home road shows. Big thanks to Sauter Heyman. Folks are all sorts of happy right now at the Single Barrel, burgers and chops and soups. A lot of Busch Light going down easy right now. It may be break in case of emergency if this thing is as tight as Vegas says. Folks, thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. What type of entree is it the Vogel household for afternoon football? We always got to start with that.
Yeah, it's pretty big weekend. I just ate a pack of instant ramen noodles, so that's how that's going.
Wow, good.
What I've got time for today. So if anybody wants to know how I boil the water for those, you can reach out to me on Twitter, Brandon.
Did you go chicken, beef, shrimp? What kind of flavored powder?
I think chicken's about the only way I usually go. I can't get behind powdered shrimp. Sorry, I don't know why chicken's better, but other than it tastes better.
Here's the question: have you ever added one? It's one of the few meals. Ramen. You ever done that?
Have I ever added what to ramen?
One slice of Kraft American cheese.
No, I haven't actually.
What? It sounds like it's gross. It's not something you need to try every single time. It does add a little more hardiness to that broth, and it is solid. It's interesting. The first time you try it, you go, I'm not sure I like that, and then you finish the bowl, and you go, I kind of like that. It's interesting. It's an old college hack. One slice Kraft American cheese, and it makes that broth like nice and creamy.
Combining two fake foods into a meal.
There we go.
It's the American way. Brandon has a sophisticated palate enough to where. But Brandon, your palate's sophisticated enough to where I would think it's been a long time since you've had American cheese voluntarily. You may have stumbled into a grilled cheese somewhere at a restaurant, maybe finishing, one of your kids' meal, right? But you don't strike me as an American cheese guy. You strike me as more of like a pure sharp cheddar, pure whatever.
Yeah, I'm a sharp cheddar guy.
Cabot's seriously sharp is my go-to, but I am exclusively American cheese when it comes to making burgers. Because
really,
yeah,
melts better.
like cheddar's good, but like American cheese is specifically engineered to melt, which is what you want on a burger. There's no better cheese on a burger than American cheese.
Engineered.
Pepper jack.
Well,
I would say pepper jack, but okay.
Let's marry an engineering school.
Aha.
Okay. Purdue.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you got choo-choo, baby. So you've got Purdue. They build things. They're smart, great at math. You have Satterfield right now that is trying to be a really good chef with some newer ingredients that you've had in the cupboard, but you just haven't dusted off yet.
Because it's ramen and American cheese.
Thank you. We've
government cheese.
Circle. We have brought it full circle, Vogues. And, where can Nebraska get down today on offense? How do you think they make this thing a feel-good Saturday for Nebraska and go 3 in a row?
Yeah, I think the playbook hasn't changed that much because even when Nebraska really hasn't been at full strength other than maybe the first couple of minutes of that Minnesota game, at the point that Isaiah Garcia Castaneda went down, it's just been kind of a series of, leading running backs, if not starters, going down at various positions. But here's what they still have. They still have a quarterback who's your leading rusher, for better or worse. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't know if it's what any team goes into a season choosing of like, our quarterback's going to lead us in rushing. Not in today's football. They have a commitment to the run, and they have a passing game that they don't throw it all that often. They don't complete a ton of passes, but when they hit for big passes, they're pretty big, and that's kind of been the recipe so far. And if you look at that, you've still got some receivers that can do that. Billy Kemp won't be available for this one, but you got Fedoni. We'll see if Malachi Coleman's ready for a little bit more, and some of those other freshmen. That's kind of the path. Like Nebraska's going to run the ball no matter what, and we've seen them like run the ball in the first half of games when it doesn't seem like it's going all that well. But that's okay. Like it's started to go well in the second half of games. Which is a little bit interesting in this one. Purdue's been really poor defending the run early, but very good after halftime. So we'll see which way that particular kind of matchup breaks.
With the changes on the offensive line this week, you're switching out your two guards, you're switching out your left tackle, right? So you lose Corcoran, you lose Newilly, and you lost Ethan Piper. There's a lot of experience that's gone. So with Justin Evans Jenkins being one of the guys at one of the guards, and Henry Lutovsky at the other guard, and then Prohaska at left tackle, which part of the offense do you think is most compromised and or maybe better off? Just how do you assess how Nebraska's offense changes based on 3 of your 5 dudes being switched out?
Yeah, I think the bigger concern for me there is probably pass protection. And Nebraska, again, hasn't thrown a ton of passes. So like the sacks allowed total doesn't look huge, but as a percentage of the passes they attempt, it's like 107th in the country. And Purdue is a team that comes in. They have almost the exact same sack rate defensively that Nebraska allows on offense. So that's another classic kind of area here of like, okay, who gets the better of that? Or maybe it's exactly, what we would expect from both teams, and then it's kind of fair play. But with a younger group, and normally I think you hear from offensive linemen, they like to run block more. It's, the more active, the more physical piece of it. The part that's easier to pick up is pass protection. So maybe it's a little bit backwards than what you would expect. But Purdue's got 2 pretty good outside linebackers, both in the top 3, Big Ten in sacks. They're coming off of a bye week, which is a big thing. We saw Rule mention that with Northwestern last week. They, had some different looks. Now you got different looks, which would have been a challenge for the regular offensive line, except it's got 3 new guys up there. So I think that's the big piece. I talked about how you can still hit for kind of these big passing plays. You can have a similar passing game, but you got to have some time to throw. I think that's the quickest way Purdue disrupts this one defensively.
Brendan Vogel's with us. Counterread.com is where you can log on and find him and Aaron Sorensen. Great work in coverage in Nebraska. We're here at the Single Barrel Hail Varsity Weekend Edition. Sauter Heyman helping power this road show. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kranak, Elijah Herbal, Bill Dolman with us, and Brandon Vogel. Connor Clark also in studio. So do you worry about Purdue's balance on offense, Vogues? We know how good Nebraska's defense has performed. We know they've tackled. We talked to open the show up about, Purdue's a swing game, but there's been a lot of swing plays Nebraska's made in this. Well, going back to last Saturday, that was the difference in Northwestern. They made some really impressive plays after the fact, be it a screen or a third down stop or even awful field position to start for the Nebraska defense to try and combat this Northwestern offense, short fields. So I want to get your take here on Nebraska, this defense handling, being able to deal with Purdue's offense that will run it and will continue to run it, but also probably as good a quarterback as they've seen since Shador.
Yeah, if Purdue is balanced today, I think it's a concern. Teams haven't been balanced so far against Nebraska. You kind of threw out the Michigan game. There's a lot of garbage time involved. Northwestern was a surprise last week in that they ran the ball 50% of the time, which is about 6% up on where they've been all season. All the other opponents Nebraska has faced have largely decided not to run the football. Northern Illinois is the big example. They were, I think, 32% run pass against Nebraska. They're a 51% run team. It was kind of shocking when I looked at that this week. To me, at least, I was like, boy, teams aren't really even trying Nebraska against the run, which is why some of those numbers look as good as they do. That said, if Purdue comes out really committed to it, and here's another one where I think bye week has the potential to play a role and has success that way. Yeah, that's probably something that's not going the way that Nebraska needs it to. That said, the balance itself, like Hudson Card, he's second in the Big Ten at about 35 attempts a game. That's about what Nebraska defends each game. So if it plays out closer to where they've been, Nebraska's used to defending plenty of passes.
Brandon, what's the number for Purdue today if they're going to get it done against this Husker defense? Well, how many points do they need to score, do you think? Because we've laid it out a couple times on this show. I think this is a 13-10, 13-7 type ball game. I mean, it's danger time if Nebraska's defense allows a couple big plays that lead to points, in my humble opinion. What do you think the number is for Purdue, where if they reach this number, they feel pretty good about their chances to win?
Yeah, I'd go higher than 13. I'd maybe say 17. So not drastically higher. And Purdue's been in a variety of kind of types of games, and they played 6 Power 5 teams to this point, which should help them coming out of bye week down the last stretch of the season here. So probably at 17. I mean, Nebraska's averaging 19, so you get to that point, it becomes kind of fair game for anyone.
Is there anything Nebraska could do differently offensively that would throw a wild card at somebody at this point in the season, or is Nebraska just what Nebraska is? Purdue, like we've talked about the bye week. They've had a chance to prepare for whatever Nebraska might do. They know Harburg's not going to pitch. They know their offensive line is decimated. They know they're, playing basically glorified high school seniors at the wide receiver position. Can Nebraska do anything at this stage to do something differently that might throw somebody off and at least give them advantage for a little while?
I honestly don't think so. It's a fascinating question because you can look at it and be like, well, is this have they played kind of every card they've had to play, and oh, by the way, lost 7 or 8 cards from the deck in the process, and it might be it. Unless, I thought Nebraska, it didn't end up that way by the end of the game, but early last week kind of came out a little bit heavier pass than I would have expected.
Yeah.
Didn't go well, as we all recall, early on, and that seemed like one of those things that maybe they identified during the bye week of, hey, we got to try and loosen things up here or something. You have that many injuries, I think it kind of you got the benefit of the rest of that bye week, the chance to do your big self scout, but now offensively, it's just kind of like whatever we can do to move the football, and so far that's been a patient running game, sticking with it, and then hitting those pass plays occasionally. It's tough for me to see a stone that's been unturned offensively at this point.
Brandon Vogel's with us on Hill Varsity Radio, and something that caught my eye last week, Brandon, was obviously the deep shot to Malachi in the end zone, and then what Matt Rule had to say afterwards, saying that he's kind of been running a lot of for the love of the game routes, right? I'm curious to hear your take. Does he get implemented into more of those primary routes now with no Billy Kemp and just this wide receiver room being totally depleted?
Yeah, probably a couple more. I think it was interesting to hear Rule say that, even for a guy who was as talented as a high school player as he was, there's still the high school to college football adjustment. And at this point, they need receivers who can be on the field, who are unavailable. So even if you're using somebody like that primarily for love of the game routes, maybe that catch last week earned him a little bit more. I'd be surprised if it didn't. I don't know that, Rule said Kemp was basically the focal point of the game plan, which to go back to Bill's point about the bye week, that seemed like, maybe something of a departure, maybe a chance to shake something loose offensively. Not an option today, of course. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Malachi get targeted a little bit more. I still think, Fedoni is kind of your best option in terms of the passing game at this point. So I'd be a little bit surprised if his targets didn't go up as well. But let's see if they can get some stuff where Malachi has a chance to make a play.
Radio live here at the Single Barrel, and I just want to quickly add, and I'll throw it back to you, Mark. Connor, your mother just stopped by. She wanted to say hi. She loves you. She's very proud of you.
Hi,
and she'll
Mom.
see you later.
Oh, I got to go talk to her about a few things.
Mark, I'll throw it back to you, though. That's just my quick aside.
Yeah, here's where you went wrong, Mrs. Clark. Just a few things. A few things to note about
Your
Connor.
list just continues.
Yeah.
Didn't realize we were going to have parent-teacher conferences here today, but I'm prepared.
Look,
Brandon, I know you're
massive amounts of Guinness.
Brandon, I know you like to dive into the numbers. When you, at least the ones that I've dove into, they're pretty similar. It seems like, right? Purdue and Nebraska. I don't see a huge edge in any one area for either team, except for a couple things, and one of them being red zone. Nebraska's, for as good as Nebraska's defense has been this year, they give up scores 90% of the time when somebody enters the red zone. And that's ranks, pretty low in the Big Ten. I think it's second to last. But Purdue offensively in the red zone, pretty terrible because their kicking game's bad. They're only converting, I think it's something like 60% when they're in the red zone. Do you see that as maybe a little hidden advantage for Nebraska, or did you, in your research, stumble into a couple others? Because otherwise, it really seems like it's a pick'em type game.
Yeah, it very much was a pick'em type game. Each week when I look at these games, like I just kind of put the numbers down, like offense versus defense for the opponent and vice versa, and like I'll make a little arrow depending on which one I think has the edge. And this one was just kind of like straight down the middle, just no advantage, no advantage, no advantage. Special teams, which you mentioned a little bit with the field goal kicking, Purdue is 3-9 in the year. Also, I think 13th in the league in punting, 12th in kickoff return. They do have a good return man in terms of kickoff. The Iowa transfer, his name's escaping me at the moment. He has a 96-yard touchdown return on the year, which, given that there aren't a ton of kickoff returns in today's game, that'll pretty much boost you for the rest of the season. But also pretty good in punt return. So I think that's kind of where the offense defense are so are pretty close. There's just not one glaring edge either way. And you're looking at, cold weather type of game. Look to special teams. Purdue hasn't been good there in most of the categories. Nebraska's not great overall special teams wise, but we've seen them be good at times at things. So it might be that simple for a game that, it looks as close as this one does. Special teams wins this one. Might be. You could talk me into that.
Brandon Vogel's with us from Counter Read, counterread.com. Vogues, as we wind it down, give me a prediction, bud, and tell folks about Counter Read and what you're doing and how folks can subscribe.
Yeah, so it's a newsletter from myself and Aaron Sorensen. We've worked together for more than a decade and started this right before, the week leading up to this football season. You can check that out at counterread.com. We try to keep the selling proposition pretty simple for our paid subscribers. 2 good newsletters a week. And so that's been going well. It's been fun to kind of learn the ropes of a new format, slightly, of storytelling. Prediction wise, there's not a ton, as we were just talking about, to separate the teams. So I'll take Nebraska to find a way. Matt Rule said all he cares about is 1 point more. I think that might be what it is. So we'll go 21-20 Huskers.
Vogue says the Big Red by 1. That means a Purdue cover at 2 right now.
And that means the overs. That's the first prediction we've had this week that has the overs. So tip the cap to Brandon making the bold prediction.
Especially after I wrote this week about how scoring is so down across all of the Big Ten. Although looks like Maryland, Northwestern are going to go over. Once you write about it, then it happens.
Vogues, enjoy the Saturday.
Ramen.
Yeah, the ramen. I was going to leave that one to the side, but you hammer that ramen, bud. Thanks for the time. We'll talk next week.
Thanks. I'll check the cheese drawer. See ya.
There he is, Brandon Vogel with us. Another comment here on the stream. We're at the Single Barrel Weekend Edition. We're here every home football Saturday. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kranak, Elijah Herbal, Connor Clarkin, the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman also. And can find the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Watch us live on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Our road show Saturday, powered by Sauter Heyman. Brandon checks in. Don't overthink it. Nebraska's won 4 of 5. Purdue's lost 3 straight. And Purdue gives up huge rushing numbers to quarterbacks that like to run it.
Well, Brandon,
Nebraska going to coach Miles, outcoach him by miles.
Brandon, the side note to this is that from our perspective here, any game that we haven't overthought in our analysis ends up being like you look at that, man, this one favors Nebraska in all categories, and Nebraska loses by 3 in heartbreaking fashion. We got to overthink it until history proves that we don't have to overthink it anymore.
Look, today, I speaking of overthinking, I bet you both offenses go deep into the playbook today. I think you're going to see some trick stuff. Purdue's in desperation mode. They're at Michigan next, right? Do some quick math. They have to get today's W if they want a chance at a bowl game. So they're going to pull out some stops, and then Nebraska just has to manufacture offense. I don't know how the hell they're going to get. They weren't getting yards with all their starters, and now 8 of those guys are out. Right? I think you might see some tricky, fun stuff today.
The hope is that the wrong guys were starting, right? So you're going to unveil a whole new high-powered offense, or at least get to 20. Quick timeout. We'll wind down this weekend edition. Don't forget, Real Red Reaction follows. We're here at the Single Barrel after for 90 minutes, at least on air. And then if we keep it on, we'll shift to digital. But let's pray that it's not one of those, how did Nebraska lose that in October moments, as Nebraska and Purdue set to go at 2:30. A quick timeout, more weekend edition of Hail Varsity at the Single Barrel, 9th and P.
The Wild Bird Habitat stores are celebrating their 30th anniversary. See all their October specials at wildbirdhabitatstore.com. Enter to win bird feeders, wild bird feed, or gift cards. Wild Bird Habitat, Lincoln's award-winning backyard bird feeding center since 1993.
Super Saver has everything you need for tailgate season at home or away. Grill out with your favorite selections and serve the best sides and drinks. Super Saver, we sell for less.
If you came across a child struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you recognize a 13-year-old boy who gets into fights at school?
Not because he's a boy, but because he's hungry.
Or a 2-year-old girl who cries all night?
Not because she's sick, but because she went to bed without enough to eat.
Or maybe a 9-year-old boy who hopes their friend invites him to a sleepover?
Not for fun, just so we can have dinner.
Or a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks over lunch,
so her friends won't know she doesn't have anything to eat?
I am the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger. Kids you pass by every day, but never knew were hungry. I am Child Hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm in the car next to you on the highway. I sit in front of you on the bus. I'm 1 out of every 6 Americans, and I'm struggling with hunger. This isn't an uncontrollable epidemic. There's enough food in this country to feed every hungry person. Please, visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for those around.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here, a pregame show. Nebraska and Purdue getting kicked off here in about an hour. We're down at the Single Barrel in downtown Lincoln. Is this roadshow brought to you by our friends over at Sartor Heyman Jewelers. Engagement ring, maybe an update to the wedding ring. Go visit our friends over at Sartor Heyman. We thank them for helping power this roadshow. It's Elijah Herbal alongside Bill Dolman. Chris Schmidt ran off to the bathroom. He should be back here.
I thought he was buying me a Guinness.
I had no idea.
Do you know if that's a number 1 or number 2? I just want to know how long.
Yeah.
He's walking back now, so it appears to be a number 1. As we roll forward here, one final time. We're about, Connor, how long do we have before we need to get out here this hour?
Speaking of power,
and 15 seconds.
That is very good to know as Schmitty sits down here. You need to get.
How many? How
Speaking
many
of
you say,
power,
Connor? What do we got?
18 minutes.
Okay, I think we can fill that up.
You
we
get
can
that
fill that up with a little basketball talk.
18 minutes until we're out.
Okay.
A hard out.
Do the quick math. Carry the 1.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Yes, we're on.
Oh, well, welcome back to the Single Barrel.
Don't need to hide it. They already said what you did. So go ahead.
I absolutely raced to get back here. I had to go to the men's room. And, So, Brennan, thank you for the advice with a bathroom etiquette. And we'll just leave that for the digital friends. Walter also chiming in. I love our stream friends.
They're the best.
Guys, let's check in a little bit here around the Big Ten. So far, so good. Northwestern up 27-20. My Fighting Jayhawks of Kansas now trailing 21-14. They fumbled.
I do have a
the
quick
kickoff.
update, by the way. Nebraska-Purdue line, and I don't know if anybody said this earlier, is now even.
Oh, no.
Even.
Somebody knows something.
So it's dropped. Somebody's out to the point where it's cost Nebraska 2 points.
Yes.
Not so that is since when? Because it was what, like 2 points as of what, yesterday?
Yeah, it was 2.5, then it dropped to 2, and then it's now even.
That's kind of a big move.
That's a giant move. So what is out there? Let's
That's
jump
a
on
really
Twitter and
big
see
move.
if the injury news has been, because you got to list your guys that are out, starters out. What's that look like? Or they're just not real thrilled with Nebraska's offense. Or the weather's going to hold and there's no rain.
That could
and
be.
Mother Nature said, we're going to hang out and not make this thing a slop fest.
I think that might be a significant a factor. I think most people, as I did throughout the week, that if this isn't a sloppy, ugly game, that favors Nebraska and its defense, because I think that limits Purdue. But if it is just cold, maybe somebody tries to open things up just a little bit more, and that puts a little more pressure on Nebraska's defense.
Well, from a player ability report, Evan Bland says, look, just no Kemp, no Nuri. They're both listed out. Huskers ready to roll otherwise. So there's no names on that injury report list that are shocking. So
has the total moved at all? That's a question in my mind as well. Because I'm wondering if
it's 39.5.
I was wondering if some big money bettor out there saw some high scoring games in the Big Ten West, particularly Northwestern and Maryland, and said, you know what, if there's going to be points scored today, if that's the trend, that I'm taking Purdue. I am not sure I see enough here to move a line this late by 2 points. That seems like a lot of points to be moving on a Saturday morning. But I'm no betting expert, as we found out the Colorado game. Don't listen to me.
It's probably after the segment that we just had talking with Brandon about how no team has a decisive edge, right? That's why they were listening and they're like, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Let's move this thing. And so here we are.
Notes.
Yep.
So guys, let's dial in now that Vegas has spoken. And if you're going to give me a reason why it is now 3 in a row for Nebraska, we'll explore that for just a moment. If Nebraska's to win this game, it is going to be Captain Obvious for me, but it's defense. And it's defense that goes a step further. And Nebraska wins because of their defense, but Nebraska wins because of some turnovers. They go +2 today on the turnover margin, and they get a little help from Purdue Pete and that psycho motionless glare the mascot has. And that's how Nebraska gets it done today, is the defense forcing some turnovers, taking the football away. It makes it a little bit easier for their offense, or the defense flat out scores. This thing is going to be low scoring. I picked Purdue 13-10, cards on the table. But if it goes the other way, and a lot of Nebraska fans want it to, it's because of Nebraska's defense. Why Nebraska gets it done, Kranak, what do you think?
Wow, this one's tough. This is one of the tougher ones of the whole year, I think, too, because of how beleaguered they are on the offensive line. Like, you can have all these ideas of what you want to do, right? Oh, they're definitely going to run the ball, or they're going to commit to this or commit to that. But you literally are switching out 3 offensive linemen in the span of a week, right? This isn't like you started the year with this. You've had 5 practice days to get this specific line ready. It's a line that was already struggling. I have no feel for this game whatsoever. I it might sound like a cop out, but like if I was to give a prediction, I would just be making some crap. But I have no feel for this game whatsoever. With how uneven Harburg looked, with how much you're switching out your offensive line, with you now going into a game with 0 experienced wide receivers, the hell are you going to see on offense? I have no clue. No clue.
Well, whenever you talk about that offensive factor, let me pose a hypothetical to you. It involves some nuance, so it's interesting. Hope you guys follow what I'm saying here. with a game that we expect to be defense first, really from both sides, how important is it that Nebraska gets a quick start? Or is it just that Nebraska needs to avoid a slow start? Because last week was a very slow start. Anything that could have gone wrong for the offense did. But in a game like today, I feel like whoever gets on the board first is going to have a real advantage with how dominant I expect the defense to be at times. Does Nebraska need a quick start? They need to avoid a slow start. What does Nebraska need to get kicked off in this football game?
The anti-Northwestern start is my answer.
So just avoid a slow start.
Avoid a bad start with the turnovers.
Just start.
That's what I mean. Because like whenever I think of a quick start, I think of Nebraska getting on the board early, first offensive drive, you go score points. I don't think that's what's necessary here. But if Nebraska shoots themselves in the foot in the first quarter, I think the alarm bells start going off with how Purdue can play this football game, knowing that Nebraska lacks some experience on that defensive line. I think you can start getting a little more aggressive if you're playing with a lead defensively. You can bring some more blitzes and understand, you know what, if they burn us here, it's okay because we have the lead. I think if you get off to a slow start, the alarm bells really, really start going off for me.
I asked this inquisitively. When was the last time Nebraska had a sustained drive to open a game? I'm talking maybe not points. I'm talking two, 3 first downs.
Nebraska, Minnesota last year, maybe?
Well, I think it's a different era. But, where you take – I think Nebraska's had the opening kickoff a couple of times, and or even just the first possession of the game where they have chewed up 40, 50 yards. Maybe the drive comes up empty. I think it's been like 3 and out or fumble, loss of yards.
They didn't start
put it
with
away.
the ball, but their drive against Illinois, their first drive was pretty solid offensively.
Well, that was coming. That was getting out of the shadow of the end zone. So that thankfully, long pass play to Marcus Washington, who 2 plays later was done for the season. But that was thanks to a long pass play. Yes, that maybe, but they need to move the ball and get some yards and at least establish something. And I don't think they've ever really established anything offensively.
And a quick note at the start of the game here before we get back into how Nebraska starts. For those listening at home or watching the game at home today, the game will begin on FS2 at 2:30. So set your DVRs accordingly. Get into the game at the right time, as Utah and Oregon will begin on FS1. That's to make time for Kansas and Oklahoma, which is going late due to the lightning delay. So Nebraska and Purdue beginning on FS2 at 2:30. There's your quick note. Back to you guys for your start of the game analysis.
Halftime is in Lawrence, 21-17 OU. So, no, Nebraska's start is critical. Rules talked about not having to start fast, fellas. But go get points, go get the lead. One of the key junctures, aside from the defense stepping up and only holding Northwestern to 3, Nebraska was able to go get a response drive and at least tie it up and get that 45-yard kick into the wind, which I would have put money down that Elvano would have missed it into the wind from 46 out. He drilled it. That's good. He'll need to be on point today. And that is the edge for Nebraska and special teams is going to be field goals.
Wow. When was the last time we said that?
But we've laid it out and produced 3 and 9. I mean, it's a cigarette and a blindfold moment every time they kick a field goal.
It's Nebraska 2019.
Yeah, it's just, you might as well just go for it, brother, because the field goal kicking's not good. To your point, Kranak, about the red zone, I mean, Purdue is either good or terrible. They either miss the field goal or they score the touchdown. But I go back to the balance with a mobile quarterback and an athlete in Card, and I think that'll stress Nebraska's defense today. Maybe I'm totally up. Maybe Nebraska's absolutely locked in and they beat the hell out of him for 4 quarters, and he's miserable. I just see them, as good as they've been, some of the personnel they played has been limited with either their athleticism or their ability to throw. Nebraska's had something to do with that, yes. But Nebraska also has been susceptible to some of those plays over 20 yards on 3rd and long. What does Card do on some of those play extensions on big money downs today against Nebraska's defense, especially if the offense didn't help him?
Well, Schmitty, I want to add on to a point here, too, about the special teams. And, it's the field goal kicking for Purdue, really. And you've seen Elvano struggle, but how can you flip the field as a punter? I mean, Buschini's going to be kicking what is essentially a boulder because of how cold it's going to be. I mean, the football is going to hurt coming off the foot. So we saw him have a couple of bombs last week against Northwestern.
Into the wind.
Yeah, into the wind. So how does Nebraska flip the field on special teams in that regard? Do they stay clean on kickoffs and kick returns? We saw that happen at Illinois on the Illinois side. They weren't very clean in that regard. So I think that third phase of the game today is going to be enormous for both of these teams. And as you mentioned, I mean, if you're Purdue and you're setting up to go for a field goal that's more than 40 yards, I'd just say get your offense back out on the field and go for it, because you're probably not going to make it. That's what history has told us this year.
Nebraska in 4 Big Ten games this year has 6 touchdowns. Think about that, right?
Brutal.
I mean, you're 1.5 touchdowns a game. You're averaging right around 13 points a game, just a little over 13 in Big Ten games. Obviously skewed a little bit by Michigan, but
you're 2-2,
right? So like, and think about how in most cases Nebraska has their starters have dwindled as the year has gone on, but this includes when Nebraska was quote unquote full strength. Right now, you're losing 8 guys on offense. That's why I think you're going to have to dip into the bag of tricks a little bit. I mean, really, you're to just think that you're going to execute your already moribund offense with worse players to get a win in the Big Ten. It just does not seem likely in any way. So
what is the bag of
manufacturing
tricks?
points is going to be I'm talking things like trick plays. I'm talking reverses. I'm talking like truly.
You talking Harburg actually pitching it?
That's a little bit of a trick play for him.
That will never,
pretty tricky.
ever happen.
Well, let me ask you this: why is Purdue 2-5? We're talking
their schedule's damn good.
Or, then why didn't they? Why were they competitive in a couple of them? Why didn't they win a couple of them? We're talking about them like they're 5-2. You know, and this Nebraska defense is really good. Nebraska special teams are getting better. We don't know what Nebraska is going to do offensively.
That's why we talk about Purdue
quite simply,
that they're 5-2, because we have zero clue about what Nebraska is going to do offensively.
You know, and look, Nebraska's offensive line, it's makeshift. But one of the names we talked about today is Prohaska. He's got starting experience. We're not talking about bringing in Gatula or Sledge or Knutson or anybody else. Can Teddy stay healthy? That's a huge key. And what's also amazing this entire season is nobody talks about Bryce Benhart. Remember last year, he was the Trolls' favorite punching bag online.
Yeah, he was.
And he has been the mainstay and has played reasonably okay this season. He has not been the fault of anything of the ineptitudes that Nebraska's had offensively. Nobody's put any video clips of him, dogging it on a PAT try. So, I mean, credit to that kid for turning things around and believing in the belief that Rule and company have had in him. But I think if Prohaska can stay healthy and play motivated, which I'm sure he is, and you've got Benhart and they love Justin Edwards-Jenkins, look, I think that offensive line could be serviceable for whatever they want to do today. But I think we're giving Purdue a whole lot more credit than they've probably earned in a 2-5 season.
Well, and somebody in the stream said earlier, I need to go find the comment. They called Purdue the best garbage team Nebraska has played this year, which it's harsh, but I think when you look at the wins Nebraska has, I think Purdue is better than Northwestern. I think Purdue is better than Illinois. I think they're better than Louisiana Tech, and I think they're better than Northern Illinois. And that's kind of where I think some of this respect comes from, despite the fact they're a 2-5 team. At times they've played better than a 2-5 team. At times they've also played just as you'd expect a 2-5 team to play. But I think they do present a different test to Nebraska, and that's why there's the respect here in terms of treating Purdue like they're better than they are, which I don't think is great.
So they're basically Nebraska the last 5 years, that Nebraska is the best team because they always lose by 1 score.
I think it's, Bill, I think part of it too, it's Purdue defensively dead last in the Big Ten in scoring defense, right? They're giving up just under 30 points a game, ranks last in the conference. I think the thing is matchup wise, Nebraska's not good enough to exploit that offensively, right? So you have this clear, oh crap, that's the worst defense in the Big Ten. Well, you're countering it with one of the worst offenses in the Big Ten. So I don't know if it's as much respect for Purdue as much as it is, well, great. Nebraska can't take advantage of their deficiencies, right? Or it doesn't seem like
going on in Vegas, because the line consensus we've just seen on social media is now Purdue -1.
Whoa.
And you have the beginning of the fourth quarter in Happy Valley. It is Indiana's last stand. They're only down by 3 to Penn State, 24-21.
It's weird. Northwestern's up by 10 on Maryland.
Yeah. And they just hit a kick to go up by 10. They did the old cow milking celebration again.
We've got 90 seconds. We need predictions for everybody today.
Well, I'm sticking with my 13-10 Purdue. Sorry. I'll have a Boilermaker later.
There you go.
I'm sticking with my 85-3 yesterday.
Cranack, what do you say?
I think Nebraska's able to scratch one out. 17-13 somehow gets an off-script score.
Okay. Elijah?
I'm sticking low scoring. I think I'm just good. What was my score prediction yesterday?
I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Well, it's obviously something you believe in fully.
I think it was 13-7
or something
13-6, 13-7, something like that. I don't know. I'm going to change it today. Nebraska 14, Purdue 13. They hit a couple of field goals despite all odds.
All right. Connor, what do you
confidence level on all of this? 32%.
Lower. Yeah, right. Lower. I'm taking the unders on our confidence level.
I'm going to stick with mine from yesterday. I'm still going to go Nebraska 17, Purdue 10. I think the defense is just going to will them to a victory today.
Maryland has a lot of quit in them once adversity strikes.
Actually, I changed my mind on the 14-13. That's not a couple of field goals from Purdue. That's a missed extra point from Purdue, 14-13.
Okay.
There it is.
So they'll do the old hat trick, says Elijah. 3 missed extra points on the season.
This was a bizarre day.
The difference. Well, load
Indiana,
up.
Penn State, Maryland, and Northwestern.
We'll see you back here at the Single Barrel for post-game Real Red Reaction. We'll have a halftime update for you as well. Big thanks, Cranack, Dolman, Sharpie, Connor, Elijah, Chris Schmidt. We'll talk to you soon here on Hail Varsity.